Howdy folks, and welcome back to Jurassic World Evolution, the ongoing video series where the titles are becoming increasingly desperate as I try to make some kind of connection between the actual content in the video and a biblical book chosen more or less completely at random. I don't know, it seemed like a good idea when I started. We finally made it onto the penultimate island in the game, the appropriately named Isla Pena, which is Spanish for the island of pain. And trust me, this place is not easy.
Nothing about this island feels right, and my instincts are usually pretty accurate when it comes to issues regarding the dinosaurs. So much of what happens on the islands is a secret, by necessity, yes, but this just feels like something else. Too cramped, too isolated. It's as if somebody is gathering up all the materials for a disaster. Tread carefully.
I'm not sure what they were up to on this island, but it certainly doesn't scream tourist attraction to me. You're gonna have your work cut out for you here. Restricted building space and high power upkeep will see to that. I'd recommend investing in some big-ticket dinosaurs, but they don't come without complications of their own.
You can't confine nature this way, because nature adapts. It searches for weaknesses, it finds them, and exploits them, not sometimes, all times. This island is worlds away from Hammond's dinosaur paradise. And if things go wrong here, worlds away is the best place to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Isla Pena. This place is a bit of a nightmare. Power costs here are extortionate. It's racked by the most deadly tropical storms that you've encountered in the game thus far. And you don't have an awful lot of real estate available in which to build tourist attractions. You can't really afford to pad out your park with lots of different species of dinosaur. You just don't have the available space. So you kind of have to go for, well, as Cabot Finch said, the big ticket attractions. The good news is you do start off with a reasonable amount of money on this island, but try not to blow it all on big dinosaurs right at the start, because there are other things here that you are definitely going to need. Storm defense stations, for one thing. You are going to want all of your facilities covered by these storm protection stations. Now, they're not going to render you immune to storm damage. The storms that hit this island are just too severe. And when you see the amount of damage that these storms can do, even to an island with 100% storm defense coverage, you're going to find it hard to believe, but trust me, the storm defense stations do actually limit the amount of damage that your park is going to take from these tropical storms. Without them, the damage would be far worse. After the storms, the second problem that you're going to face on this island is a lack of power. For some reason, all the facilities on this island just use more power than elsewhere. And a small power station is just not going to cut it. So we're going to demolish this while we don't actually have any guests, and we are losing money hand over fist. And we're going to put a medium power station down here and get it fully upgraded. Not forgetting, of course, to get some storm defense coverage up here as well, because this is our only power station, and if we lose this, we're going to be in trouble. Now, looking at the layout of the island itself, this long road that runs from the north down to the south, there is very little that you can actually do along the majority of the length of that road. Most of your available real estate for actually building your park is down here in the south, and there's not that much free space down here, so you're going to have to be very careful to try to maximise the effectiveness of the buildings that you do place. There is actually some spare ground around about halfway up the big north-south road, but it wouldn't make any sense at this early stage of the game to start developing that, because if you were to put a dinosaur enclosure up there right now, that's going to require its own tourist facilities, it's going to require its own storm defense station. So try to, at least at the start, just focus on building up the dinosaur attractions in the area that you already have down to the south. There is some space over here for more support facilities, where we already have the Fossil Centre and the Expedition Centre. And right now we're just waiting for the power plant to come online, but we are also going to need a research centre. Don't forget, every time you start a new island, there are new diseases that can strike down your dinosaurs, and if you haven't researched the cures for those diseases, they are just going to die. So a research centre is a priority. We've already gone through around about half of the funds that were available at the start of this island, so you can see why it's a good idea to invest in the facilities rather than just blowing it all straight away on big ticket dinosaur attractions. Another top tip for this island is to save some of that starting money to build a monorail and basically get rid of that road completely, because don't forget, the visitor centre, the entrance to the park is actually all the way up there to the north where we built the medium power station. Which means that any guests that arrive in your park have to walk the entire length of the island to actually get to see the dinosaurs. Now you might be thinking, tough, the exercise will do them good. But remember, if there's any kind of emergency on the island, a tropical storm or dinosaurs are running loose, then remember the guests have to actually walk to the nearest available emergency shelter. And if you have guests strung up the entire length of this island, it will take them forever to get to the shelter, and in fact the emergency will probably be over one way or the other, for good or bad, before they make it to the shelters. So if you build a monorail to actually get the guests from the northern end to the southern end of the island and get rid of the road in between, the guests won't be on the road, and you'll be able to concentrate them into the areas of the park where they'll be safest, and also they'll be spending their money and doing you the most good. So we finally have our first dinosaur. It's a baryonyx. It's a large carnivore. It's not quite as big a draw as a Tyrannosaurus, but, well, Tyrannosaurs are incredibly expensive. But the baryonyx isn't exactly cheap either. So it should start putting bums on seats, and we should start making some money. With an actual attraction in the park, the guests are going to start arriving. They're going to be hungry, they're going to be thirsty, and they're going to want all kinds of rubbish and junk souvenirs to spend Junior's college fund on. You may think that sounds harsh, but I just prefer to think of it as practical. Junior's an idiot, he's probably going to end up lining the stomach of one of the carnivores, so you may as well spend it while you've got it, and if you're going to spend it, you may as well spend it here. We're short on cash, so I've picked up a contract from the security division to take a photo of a dinosaur worth at least $5,000. I've only got one dinosaur, but it's an impressive one, and yeah, that'll do.
You have a real eye for composition.
Control reassigned.
Right, well, we have guests arriving. We only have one attraction for them to look at, but it is a pretty impressive attraction. Unfortunately, these idiots are still not using the monorail. So we're going to have to go ahead and get rid of the... oh, bugger. I accidentally deleted a monorail section. So now the northern half of the island is no longer connected to the southern half of the island. I'm at less than $100,000. Can I even afford to repair and replace? Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not a fan of long walks,
Yes, yes,
and it
Cabot, we
seems you
know.
guys
Shut
agree
up.
with me.
I did it on
Increase the
purpose, alright?
transport coverage and help us all take a
Oh,
load
okay.
off.
That's a relief. We can actually afford. Wasn't that expensive. Everything on your island has to be connected to a road network. But the monorail actually counts as the road network. So as long as your monorail is connecting one road to another, you don't have to have a road spanning the same distance as the monorail. You see, the guests stick to the transportation network. They will only wander around the roads or stick to the monorails. So if you don't want them wandering along the entire length of the island, get rid of the roads and stick a monorail down instead. Okay, we're not making a loss anymore, but we're still not making much of a profit. In fact, the major source of income at the moment is actually from the sale of fossils that we dug up via the Expedition Centre and the Fossil Centre. So it's time to start making better use of the available space that we have down here to the south by building a new, bigger enclosure and getting it populated with some big-ticket dinosaurs. So we're plugging away at preparing this new enclosure when we get a warning that there's a tropical storm incoming, and I have heard all about how bad the storms are in this place, but I am prepared. I have my storm defense stations giving me almost 100% storm coverage. I have removed the road, which was going to have guests strung along the entire length of the island, and so they're all concentrated down here within easy walking distance of the emergency shelter. Bring it on, Hurricane Andrew. Do your worst. I'm prepared for this shit. And there's the storm warning. Where's the storm? Oh, here it comes. Okay. I've heard all kinds of horror stories about what the storms are like on this place. Guests should now all be in the shelters. Just waiting for the damage reports. Oh, here we go. No, it's an expedition complete. No damage reports. Everything online. Everything looking good. Well, is this it? I don't know about you, but I feel vaguely cheated. I spent all that money trying to make my park as stormproof as possible. Not one single damage report. Everything's just a bit wet and windy. I've seen worse storms than this in the southeast of England. I demand a refund. Oh well, you know, first world problems, I suppose. Fine, storm's over. Blown itself out. Well, that was nothing. Well, if that's the worst this place can throw at me, I'm feeling pretty confident. But it's time to get some more dinosaurs into this new enclosure, and we're going for a seriously big ticket attraction here. This is the Camarasaurus. I don't have 100% of the genome, but I can tinker with it a little bit. I have a 60% boost via the Hammond Creation Lab to the viability of any eggs that I incubate here, so I can afford to take its viability down to 40% and slap as many enhancements onto this little bugger as I possibly can. Well, I say little bugger, it's actually huge. It's even bigger than the Brachiosaur, and if this thing doesn't guarantee bums on seats, nothing will. Right, let's incubate that sucker. Fairly expensive, that's $1 million. Oh, feeder needs resupply. Okay, let's nominate our ranger team to go and feed the baryonyx, while the Camarasaurus is in the oven. Now, like the Brachiosaur and other giant herbivores, it does like a forested environment, so we're going to spend some more of our rapidly diminishing funds putting some trees down around the gyrosphere route. Hopefully, this will be enough. Now, the gyrosphere is a fantastic facility for giving your guests visibility of dinosaurs that are in heavily forested viewing enclosures, because guests who are using the gyrosphere station actually go into the enclosure. The problem is that it can kind of restrict the amount of forestation that you can actually put inside the enclosure, because you can't plant trees directly on top of the gyrosphere route. So hopefully I won't have to modify the gyrosphere route in order to put more trees down, and this should be enough forest cover, I hope, for my brand new baby Camarasaurus. And here she is. You'll have to be quiet, she's a bit shy. It's alright, out you come. Don't worry, you've got this whole place to yourself. It's absolutely fine. Now here's the crucial part. Did I get the right mix of forest and grassland cover to make this thing happy? Fingers crossed, because this could be a very expensive mistake if I've gotten it wrong. Oh, bollocks. Nope. Needs more forest.
Represents the diversity of late-era Jurassic life, much like the other sauropods, but with a larger head.
And more forest isn't all it needs. It turns out they don't like being alone. So you can't just put one Camarasaurus into your park, otherwise it's going to get very unhappy. It needs a friend. And did I mention these things are expensive? I only have $805,000. I'm going to have to drop some of the genetic modifications. Let's drop the skin pattern. And now it's $673,000. Okay, we'll go ahead and incubate that. I now have a couple of problems. For one thing, it takes a long time to incubate one of these Camarasaurus eggs. Plenty of time for the existing Camarasaur to get seriously unhappy. And I do have steel reinforced concrete fences, but, well, this is a 60-ton dinosaur. If it decides it wants to get out, it's going to get out. Secondly, even if I could instantly incubate that second Camarasaurus egg, it's still not going to be good enough because there isn't enough forest cover in this enclosure, so I'm going to have to go ahead and start hacking away at bits of the gyrosphere route in order to provide more space plant some trees. And a shorter gyrosphere route means less time that the guests have available to spend pointing their fingers at and taking pictures of the dinosaurs, and that means unhappy guests, and they're not spending as much money, and so on and so on and so on. But I don't really have a lot of choice. I need more forest cover. I can't expand the boundaries of the enclosure because there isn't any space. It's right up to the limits of the available building space anyway, so the only way to arrange for more trees in this enclosure is to piss the guests off and shorten the gyrosphere route. Now there is actually another solution to the Camarasaurus problem, and veteran Jurassic World evolution players probably know what it is that I'm talking about, but I'm not quite that desperate yet. So we're going to go with shortening the gyrosphere route. Shortly afterwards, two things happen. I finally have enough forest cover, and yeah, that is a lot of forest cover, but I finally have enough forest cover to keep the first Camarasaurus happy with the environment. Still not happy about the lack of company, but the second Camarasaurus is ready. So I need to get this dinosaur into the enclosure quickly, even though there is a storm incoming, and I have opened the emergency shelters and we're getting all the guests below ground. I'm taking a bit of a calculated risk here. You can hear Cammy number 1 battering away at the fence. She is not happy. So I have to give her a friend to try to calm her down, even though the incoming storm might actually spook both of them to the extent that they break out of the enclosure, and then I have to deal with 2 very unhappy 60-ton herbivores rather than just 1. But, well, we've dealt with the storms on this island before. They're not that bad. They're nowhere near as bad as I've been led to believe. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? A tornado? What exactly are my rangers supposed to do to deal with a tornado? Oh, and it's going straight through the Camarasaur enclosure. Fantastic. And it looks like it's actually heading straight for the very expensive gyrosphere station that I just built. Fence is down, Camarasaurs are running amok, and I'm about to lose the gyrosphere station. Well, fantastic. Yep, it's going to go right through it. And the force of the winds... I mean, I'm trying to get the rangers over there to start repairs, but I'm having to fight the winds every step of the way. You'll note I don't have any problems going in reverse. I get plenty of wind assistance going in reverse. It's going to take out the ranger station as well. Oh wait, no. No, it's hitting the monorail. The ranger station's okay, but the monorail is wrecked. Now where's it going? Actually, you know what? I don't care where it's going. I need to get that fence fixed before the Camarasaurs escape. So this is my priority now. And this is where I run into one of the other problems associated with keeping Camarasaurs in your park. They require such heavy forest cover, I can't actually get through it in the Jeep. Yeah, shut up, Isaac. This is not the time, seriously. Go away. Come back when the island isn't being wrecked by a major tornado. You can see the breach in the fence. There isn't actually a route through there that the Jeep can take in order to get to where it needs to be, in order to fix the breach in the fence before one of my dinosaurs escapes. So I'm having to use the landscaping tool to actually hack the trees down, so there's a path available for me to drive over there in the Ranger Jeep, and it's already too late. She's out. Well, it's a bit like shutting the barn door after the horse has bolted, but I do need to fix the breach in the fence because there are 2 Camarasaurs in that enclosure and I don't want the other one getting out. Oh wait, hang on a minute. We've got a... Okay, we have a damaged electrical pylon. So the entire southern half of the park is now completely without power. Okay, one of the Camarasaurs is already out of the park, so this is now a job for the asset containment unit and not the ranger team. It's not an immediate problem, however, because the guests are inside the shelters. So let's at least make the repairs that we need to make right now while it's not a pressing problem. Oh, that was close. Yeah, I don't think so. Not on my watch. Nice try, Camarasaurus number 2. But while the guests are not in any immediate danger of getting ripped limb from limb or trampled underfoot by very upset 60-ton herbivores, let's just fix what we can. And then we can call in the asset containment units to clean up the mess. In the meantime, disease contracted. Seriously? You're giving me this as well? Yeah, they are. You know what you did. We'll deal with you later. Luckily, I have built the research centre, and I have researched the cures for 2 of the 3 possible diseases that... Wait a minute, why is it saying I have 2 Oh god. Yeah, the baryonyx just escaped right before I sealed the breach in the fence. Fantastic. But, well, the guests are all safely inside the shelters. It's not going to kill anybody. And it's certainly not going to be able to kill the Camarasaurus. It's far too big. So, this is a problem for the asset containment unit, not the legal division. Speaking of which, the asset containment unit was also damaged by the storm. And I'm having to do all of this manually, because I can't assign automatic tasks to the ranger team here, because that electrical pylon was down, which meant that the ranger station had no power. So since we're here anyway, let's at least start the repairs on the asset containment unit centre, and with the electrical grid back up and running, we can now assign automatic tasks to the rangers. Rangers, medicate our sick dinosaur. Requires the tick parasite medication. Are you kidding me? I've researched 2 of the 3 possible afflictions that can strike your dinosaurs down on this island, and the one that it chooses to actually hit my camarasaurs with is the one that I haven't researched. So on top of everything else, on top of the storm that just wrecked 80% of my island, I've got a baryonyx and a camarasaurus running riot around the park. On top of all of that, it's just given me an uncurable disease. You know, earlier I mentioned that there was a far more drastic solution to my Camarasaurus problem than simply editing the gyrosphere track. And the more drastic solution is to not bother with the Camarasaurus in the first place. Seriously, I love them to bits. I think they're amazing dinosaurs, but they're more trouble than a pack of velociraptors. They're incredibly expensive, and you can't just put one of them into an enclosure. They require company. And the amount of vegetation that they actually require in that enclosure to be comfortable and not break the fence down and go looking for greener pastures elsewhere is just completely over the top. So much so that it makes visibility of the things a real problem for the guests. There's no point in having these impressive 60-ton dinosaurs in the enclosure if the guests can't see the bloody things because the forest is too thick. And that extremely dense forest cover means that there aren't that many other species that are happy to share the same enclosure. So don't bother with the Camarasaurus. Just stick to something simple, like the Diplodocus. It doesn't have quite the same star rating, but you can put them pretty much anywhere. And heck, even the Brachiosaurus, which up until now I thought was one of the fussiest dinosaurs available in the game, even the Brachiosaurus would be quite happy with that level of forest cover. And that's after removing 20% of it with a landscaping tool so I could actually see the 2 Camarasauri that I was attempting to drug and dispose of. Camarasauri? Camarasaurs. Whatever. Those big bastards are more trouble than they're worth. Here's what you want. A nice big open enclosure with some Archaeothorn on the fuck it, Chicken Lizard 2.0s. I can't pronounce the name.
That's an Archaeornithomimus.
I hate Cabot almost as much as I hate Isaac. You know he only did that to embarrass me. Once we've accumulated some spare cash, we're going to stick a Diplodocus in there because they're great, they're low maintenance, everybody loves them, and they're a reasonable star attraction. Follow it up with a couple of Taurosauri, which are another good attraction. They have reasonable star power. They're slightly more fussy than a Diplodocus. They require at least 2 of them to be happy. But they're not too fussy about who else they share the park with. And the guests do like them. But the herbivores alone are not going to be quite enough to boost the dinosaur rating to an extent where we have an overall park rating of 3 stars, which will unlock the final island in the game. In order to do that, we're going to have to add at least 1 new carnivore to the mix. And we do have a contract for the science division to release a Metriocanthosaurus with the aggressive instincts modification. Now this is a short-term solution because the Metriocanthosaurus is a large carnivore, and this enclosure is already occupied by a large carnivore, the baryonyx. So these 2 are going to fight. But it doesn't really matter because in the short term it's enough to give me an overall park rating of 3 stars and unlock Isla Sorna.
Isla Sorna. If there's a place on Earth, Earth as it currently exists, obviously, if there's a place where dinosaurs look like they should live, then this is it.
Yeah, because it went so well all of the last times. Jeez. Now I sound like Malcolm.
Now, as I mentioned, this is only a short-term solution to my island star rating problem, because the Metriacanthosaurus and the Baryonyx, well, only one of them is going to survive this fight. Which is why I'm in here with the Ranger team. I want to stack the odds in favour of the Metriacanthosaurus. The Baryonyx is actually the tougher of the two dinosaurs, but this is a brand new Metriacanthosaurus. The Baryonyx has been here for a while, it's getting kind of old. And if the Metriacanthosaurus can be coached into winning the fight, it gets up to half of the star rating of the Baryonyx. And we have just unlocked our first science reputation reward for Isla Pena. We now have improved power output on our power stations, which, given the prohibitive power costs of the facilities on this island, is something that you are definitely going to need. Now, our star rating is going to take a hit on the results of this fight, because we're going to lose a large carnivore, but that should be offset by the fact that... Oh, actually, I should probably be taking a picture of this. There we go. That should be worth a few bucks. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. Oh, they're at it again. This time it's going to be to the finish, but we know the Metriacanthosaurus is going to win because we're cheating. There's the Baryonyx, he's waiting. Come on, do it. What are you waiting for? I'm over here, kill me. The Metriacanthosaurus is only too happy to oblige. The Baryonyx is staggered. The next strike will finish this. And we have a winner. And with the death of the Baryonyx, the overall star rating of the park is going to dip below 3 stars. But it doesn't matter, because I've unlocked Isla Sorna anyway. I was at 3 stars. And the star rating loss was offset by the boost to star rating that the Metriacanthosaurus got from killing the Baryonyx. It's gained 97 combat infamy, which gives it an overall rating of 313. And the park's overall rating is only just slightly lower than it was before the fight started, so we haven't really lost anything. More importantly, we've unlocked Isla Sorna. We have a viable, profitable working park with attractions that guests can actually see. And things should only get better from here. All that to come in a future episode of Jurassic World Evolution. I hope you enjoyed this one, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.